Hey everybody, it's Frau Kagalia here, founder of Falk Aromatherapy. I'm a certified aromatherapist and educator. I thought I'd start it off by starting with the topic that I get asked so much, and that is how do I know if my essential oils have expired? So let's start with that topic today. I apologize that I'm outside, by the way, but with the shelter in place that we have here in the Bay Area, there's not a lot of room in our tiny house with um, two teenage boys and a husband also trying to work. So I have moved outdoors. At least it's sunny today here in California, so a little windy, so apologize for that. But hopefully you'll bear with me and hopefully I can be helpful to you this month. That's really my goal. Okay, so let's get started. I've taken some notes just so I stay on track. But why should we even care about our essential oils expiring? Let's start with that, because some people are like, what, essential oils? I've just always had them. I've always kept them around. Who cares if they, do they need to, does it matter if we have an expiration date on them? And in fact, it does. Essential oils are natural, so think of them as you would your food, right? They're lively, they're vibrant. They've come out of plants. They've been extracted from plants, so it really does matter because, and I'll talk about that in a minute. If you have an essential oil around too long, it can actually not be good for you. It actually affects the safety of the use of the product, right? So what you should know is that essential oils definitely have a shelf life. And why should we even care about um, whether an essential oil expires? There's actually two reasons for that. The first one being is that you want to actually get the most out of them. You want them to be the most effective they can possibly be, and especially getting their therapeutic use. And you can do that only when you have a really high quality essential oil that's going to have its vibrancy in place, because over time it does dull out and become less effective and oxidize. So just be aware of that. And secondly is for your safety. Again, it could oxidize. The chemical constituency of the essential oil will change over time. It's just because, just like we age with time, we as human beings, we're made of chemicals, so are essential oils, and with age comes change. So just be aware of that. So one of the biggest things that I want to talk about as far as expiration of essential oils is shelf life. So I said to think of it like food, and an essential oil will have a shelf life. So how do I know when that shelf life is? Well, the first place you have to look is you have to ideally work with an essential oil supplier that can tell you when the essential oil was distilled or extracted or at some point taken out of the plant, these volatile compounds. So a good essential oil company will have that information on their website when you purchase from them, and you can start with that date, when it was actually produced. And from there, this same essential oil company most likely will tell you the shelf life of your essential oil. So citruses last between 1 or 2 years, and pines and some other the florals, they typically last 2 to 5 years. I've got an extensive list of the shelf life of essential oils on one of the blog posts that I wrote, specifically how to know when your essential oils have expired. So this topic here today, I did write an extensive blog post about it. So if you're interested in having all the details, you don't want to take notes now, feel free to go to falkaromatherapy.com and go to my blog posts, and it'll be there. All right. But just to continue, so it starts when the essential oil is produced. So let's take an example of lavender, and you learn that lavender was produced in July of 2019, and it has a shelf life of 6 years. So then you know the expiration date of your essential oil is July 2025. And so you have a whole bunch of time to use up that essential oil, which is great. Lavender is one that does have a very good shelf life. So the expiration date is then, and what I typically do is make a little note on the bottles somewhere of July 2025, so that whenever I'm using the essential oil, I'm like, oh yeah, I'm reminded how much time I have to work with that oil. If you don't know when it was produced, because there's a lot of you who are probably buying essential oils on Amazon or through a distributor that doesn't tell you when it was produced, what you can do is work from the moment of when you've opened the bottle for the first time. So let's say I bought it last week, March 25th, and then I would use that as my start date for the lavender. It's not the best because it should really be from the moment when you produced, when the essential oil was produced, but good reputable companies will make sure that it's, this little essential oil bottle that you've purchased has been handled properly and closed immediately after production, and you can pretty much go from the time that you first make that click on the bottle and start there. And then you can go from the 6, maybe even be conservative and shave off a year from, or 6 months off of the time that you think the shelf life is, and that I've listed on my blog post all the different types of oils and their estimated shelf life, and then just go from there. So that's another option that you have. Again, ideally you want to work with a supplier that will tell you both the production date and the shelf life. All right, so that's the first thing. What else do I want to tell you? So a good way, one really important thing is that I want you to keep track of your essential oil supplies as much as possible. Even if you only have 5 or 6, it doesn't matter how many you have. I bet many of you are essential oil enthusiasts and you have quite a few essential oils. It's really great either in a notebook, or I keep it on a spreadsheet online. It's just easier for me. Just jot down the name of the essential oil, the date of production, or the date you first opened it, as I mentioned, then the shelf life, and then the expiration date. And then you take the expiration date and you jot that down on the bottle itself. So that's what's really important to do. So that's what I definitely recommend, is either write it in a notebook or online somehow in a computer. Keep tabs of your essential oil supply. You'd be surprised how fast time goes, and you think you've used your essential oil up, and you're like, wow, I've only got a year left with this particular essential oil. I have to use this one more. Or you use it really quickly and you never get anywhere near the expiration date. That's also possible. One tip, if you're just starting out with essential oils, is that you try to buy the smallest size first. When you're just starting out, you need to get a feel for using the essential oils. And even if you see a really great deal for, a 2-ounce bottle, 1-ounce bottle, that's a lot. 30 milliliters or 1 ounce, that's a lot of essential oil to use up unless you're using it literally all day, every day. Start with a smaller size until you get to know what you're using more often. So that's what I highly recommend. So what else can we talk about? So what if your essential oils have in fact expired? What do you do then? Or actually before we talk about if they have expired, let's talk about other ways you can also know that your essential oils probably aren't as effective. They might not have expired yet, but they're starting to be less effective. There's a couple of things you can look at and that you can do organoleptically, as they like to call it, using your senses. One of them is to smell your essential oils. So what I like to do as soon as I receive or buy my first whatever essential oils I have, in that same notebook where I've kept a tab of the expiration date, I also like to write down little notes about what it smells like, because hopefully when you've purchased the oil and you open it up for the first time, it's really vibrant and alive. It is a natural after all, so it should have some vibrancy in it. If it really smells flat and like there's not much going on, then you should be concerned that maybe it is already well along on its way to expiring in the middle of its shelf life. It depends on how long it's been sitting on the shelf at the store, if you bought it at a store, or with the supplier that you bought the essential oil from. So make sure you keep a track, especially when you open it for the first time, and then every time you open it, smell and go, does it still have that vibrancy? Is it smelling similar to how I bought it? Now over time it will start to change slightly. Again, the citrus oils tend to oxidize, fancy word for the chemical structure of the essential oil changing. So that will happen after over time. It just naturally does. Just like we humans change over time, so too do we have our essential oils change. So make sure you smell as soon as you buy and then keep smelling along the way. Citruses, you'll notice they lose their vibrancy very quickly. So just a word of caution. The other thing you should do is just look at the color. So as you're using the drops the first time, the first day, just have fun with it and smell it and look at it and make a note of what the color is. You have to make sure your citrus oils aren't um, like foggy or they need to be clear. That's really important. So those are all signs that the oil is changing and that the expiration date has passed or it's soon to pass. So look visually and make sure you smell your essential oils. Those are another indications besides just getting the information from your supplier or guesstimating your expiration date. And so what if your essential oils have in fact expired? It does happen. Maybe some of you have had your oils for a long time and you're not even sure anymore. Is it way past their time? I would say if you've had oils for 10 years, unless it's patchouli or some of these, or sandalwood, some of these heavier essential oils, most likely they probably have expired. One thing that you should try to do is there's 3 ways to take good care of your essential oils to help reduce the shelf life. I mean, to extend the shelf life or make sure it stays at the shelf life it's supposed to be. And that is the 3 enemies of essential oils, which are heat, light, and air. So make sure you keep essential oils away from heat. They do not like heat. Just keep them in a cooler place. It doesn't have to be in a refrigerator, but just in a cool and then dark place. They don't like light. Essential oil bottles are in brown or colored glass bottles for a reason. It's to keep out the UV light, and so just don't keep them on a windowsill. Please try to keep them in a dark, maybe in your closet, in a container of some sort. So cool, dark, and then also keep the air out. So make sure you always have the lid on tight. Really important. If it's even a little bit open, or if you keep the lid off for long periods of time, you're allowing oxygen to get into the essential oil, and oxygen changes the chemical composition of the essential oil with time. So, and then you won't have the same essential oil. It'll start to smell different, it'll start to behave different, and it won't be as therapeutically effective as it could be. So heat, light, and air. Keep them in a cool, dark, airtight space. All right, so the last thing I guess I would say is if you have oils that have expired and you think, oh, what do I do now? If you feel like they haven't been, as I said, if they've been around for a long time and you feel this might be a good time to just start fresh, go ahead and dispose of your essential oils. I really don't recommend using oils that have been around a long time, even if you're just using them to room diffuse. Those molecules do get into your lungs and they can irritate your lungs. So I just wouldn't use them, especially on skin, that's for sure. But even in room diffusing, because over time they can really, irritate the lungs a little bit. So just with that in mind, I would get in touch with your local recycling facility and see how you can properly dispose of essential oils. Same thing with fragrance. If you have fragrances, those are chemicals that need to be disposed of separately from your normal waste, and they should never be put down the drain. So please don't do that either. So if you feel like they've only been expired for a little bit, I do like to use them as a cleaning product. So take them and convert them into a cleaning spray and just use them on your countertops as opposed to on your skin or inhaling them. As soon as it's on a countertop, it's not a human surface. So that's another option. So I hope that's a little helpful. Expiration is a huge topic because it's an important topic. It's all about safety and really getting the most out of your essential oils. The vibrancy is important, so keep that in mind. Again, I do have an extensive blog post about this topic on falkaromatherapy.com, so feel free to check that out. And hope you're all well and being safe. Take care.